Hello, everybody. This is Dave from Tanked Up Life. So I want to do an update today on my 30-gallon that I added CO2 about 20 days ago. And I'm going to show you this video here is from the day that I installed the CO2. So you can see the CO2 bubble diffuser, one bubble per 1.5 seconds. You're going to see the plants, what condition that they're in the tank. Okay, so the plant is the tank is looking good, but nothing is crazy overgrown. Probably that plant on the left is a little large. But in a moment, I'm going to snap to 7 days of CO2, and you're going to see the difference in that. And then we're going to go to 20 days of CO2, which is going to be pretty mind blowing. So again, this was the day that we set up the CO2. So now we're jumping to, I know it says today, that's not today. That's 7 days of CO2. And you can see from 7 days how much more plant growth there is. It's fairly dramatic. Some of the plants really took off with, the CO2 injection. Okay, so here's a look at 7 days of CO2. And then now I'm going to show you what 20 days of CO2 looks like. And quite honestly, the tank is going to look completely overgrown. So coming up is going to be 20 days of CO2. Okay, so here is what the tank looks like now. It is completely overgrown. The red tiger lotus, which was pretty much non-existent, has absolutely just exploded with growth. It's like out of control. I cannot believe, look at the size of the leaves. They're just absolutely tremendous. Now, when I shot the original video, this red tiger lotus plant almost didn't exist. It was like one leaf. And it was actually the tiger lotus that was on the left side that had the growth. Now that's still here. There's some floaters up on top. I guess from this plant kind of suppressed its growth down low, because I do see some leaves down there. It's kind of shocking to me why this one, which really almost didn't, you could barely see it, has just completely skyrocketed. The CO2 is right in the middle. I don't know if you can catch it. I gotta have to recharge the system, but there are some bubbles coming up the back. So that's the CO2 diffuser. I did take this plant, like I said in the last video, which was basically centrally one little spot, and I replanted it. So you'll see now there's multiple, I don't know what you want to call it, branches or whatever, kind of scattered all around. But this has actually become way too thick. And I think one of the problems I have here now is that it looks overcrowded for the fish because there's really no room for the fish to swim. This plant, again, I'll put the names up. This plant just absolutely out of control. I did remove it from the first other video. I had it over here, one of them. I did transplant it, but you can see it's just sprawled over the top. I did finally get some frog bit, which I had mentioned. And so you can see the frog bit there, and the roots kind of hang down, which I absolutely love. The problem with frog bit is it requires fairly still water. Even though I don't have much current in this, I have these two hang on the back filters on the top. Frogbit likes to just kind of, be in fairly stagnant water. But I guess the only perk is that this plant is just so out of control, it's kind of holding everything in place. But obviously, I have to do some major trimming on this tank. I just wanted to not touch it to show you guys just the absolutely insane growth that goes on with CO2. This right here, and again, I'll put the name up. This plant, I only really put in there to propagate it, to move it back into my my Fluval Spec V 5-gallon. And this thing has just absolutely taken off. This is a dwarf sag. And now, I don't know why. This does not look like dwarf sag to me, but it was part of the same bundle. Maybe just because there's so much CO2, in the water that it's kind of turning, these big, nice, thick branches. But anyway, this is going to come out. Probably this one's going to come out. I'm going to be moved into my Fluval Spec V. This tank has no pest snails. I don't know why I'm having pest snail problems in my other tanks. There is none in this tank, and I can't really figure out why, except that somebody must be eating them. Because I did find one the other day, but they really are not multiplying. I don't know who is eating them, because I don't have any fish in here or loaches that would normally eat pest snails. Well, I'm happy to say that this is a completely pest snail-free tank, which it looks fantastic, but it's very overgrown. The plant in the back, I think it's water wisteria. You could barely see it on the other video, and now it is a fairly quick growing plant, but it was growing very slowly compared to what it did now, where it's basically taken over the back of the tank. So the Ludwigia Triple Red you see is growing like crazy, how tall it is now. Again, I know it's obstructed by all of these other plants, but it really took off. So I'm going to do some major trimming of these plants. I'm going to take a lot of this out because even though the shrimp love this plant, it's already generally a very fast growing plant, and with the CO2 it's just out of control. So here's the point of this: is the same reason why I have CO2 is the same reason why I stopped CO2 in the previous tank that I had here. I had a 28-gallon Beaufront that was kind of looking old. I'd had it for years. I swapped it out with this 30-gallon. You know, I got at Petco, I think it was. It was like $1 a gallon sale, so this tank was like $30. But the same reason why I added CO2 to begin with is also why I sometimes stop the CO2, is because the plants just grow at such a high speed that you end up with a tank that looks like this. Now, yes, this tank is immaculate. Look how clear the water is. It's like you can't even see the water. I have nothing crazy going on. I have not done a water change in this tank. I did, and I want to say about 2 weeks. I did a 30% water change 2 weeks ago. It's obviously extremely healthy. Even the top of the water, there's no junk or anything floating around. You know, the plants just really will soak up anything in the water. This is fluorite black sand, the substrate, which is my favorite substrate because it's great for things like cory cats and coolie loaches and whatnot. You can't even tell that it gets dirty. It does a great job at soaking up the excess nutrients that are in the water. It literally takes, I want to say, a good year and a half before you start to see kind of a line down here of the, I want to say the dirt, detritus that is slowly, you know, will build up. But overall, I think it's my favorite substrate because the plants just do fantastic, and it keeps the plants down because it is a sand-like, structure. Sea-Chem fluorite also comes in some other colors, and I believe they call some of the other colors are sand, but none of them are refined sand like this. Only for whatever reason, the fluorite black is this fine sand. I wish the other colors, which were much more lighter, like a maroon, burgundy, orange, would be this fine. I don't know why they don't make them this fine. But anyway, long story short here is, now I have a tank that is just completely overgrown. And again, that's only with one bubble every 1.5 seconds, which is fairly low. Now, you see, I don't have a CO2 checker in the water. And honestly, that's because I've been doing this for a while. I don't find that they work too great. Usually they turn green and they kind of stay green. Yellow means, I think, too much CO2. Blue means too little CO2. They don't seem to really do much to me, and being that I've already had CO2 in a similar sized tank, I basically know that I can go up to a bubble a second and not be overdosing the CO2. But again, this is a bubble every 1.5 seconds, and it's still just insane plant growth. So you need to think about that if you're going to add CO2 to your tank. Your plants are going to do absolutely amazing, but you're going to have very quickly an overgrown tank, which is going to require a lot more maintenance, a lot more trimming of the plants. Sometimes the plants don't look good when they get this big. An Amazon sword can take over your entire tank. They can get so monstrous, even though they're amazing plants. I mean, this Java fern in the middle is, I'm kind of shocked at how large the Java fern has gotten. It's just, everything is just growing like there's no tomorrow. There's no secret to my fertilization of the water, I add API leaf zone at generally a little more than a half of the required dose. And I do that once a week. I always do it after a water change. Maybe I'll do a half of the required dose one more time during the week. But I don't do it every single week because I don't want algae. So I want to make sure that the plants are soaking up any of the extra nutrients that are in the water. I don't really want to over fertilize. I also use Seachem Flourish Excel, which is supposed to add bioactive carbon to the water. I've said before, it really is an algicide, so that helps also kind of keep the algae at bay. But again, if you look at how healthy this tank is, how healthy the fish are, the plants are just absolutely beautiful. You can see there's very little algae on the leaves. The plant growth is just insane. Again, I cannot believe this red tiger lotus. I mentioned before how thin the vines were before the CO2. Now look how nice and thick they are now going up to these leaves. So you don't need CO2 for a red tiger lotus plant, but it certainly helps. But now it's kind of threw off the design of this tank. I wanted a red tiger lotus growing on both sides, and then I've got the driftwood and the Java fern as a centerpiece. Again, this tiger lotus went crazy. This one is kind of hidden. So I'm gonna have to try to work on that to kind of balance it out. But at the end of the day, it's fantastic to have such a nice, healthy, imbalanced tank with such clean, clear water and such healthy fish. But you know, there's nowhere for the fish to swim. They're just like, looks like it's an overcrowded tank now. It probably was a little overcrowded. I do tend to stock my tanks fairly heavily, but that's because I always have ample filtration. This is running 250 gallons per hour. I do have a Fluval 307 canister filter. Don't really want to put it on here. If these filters are really doing a fantastic job. Everything is totally in balance. My 20 gallon, I can say the same. Plants are growing with the CO2, but I'm still having problems with that substrate. But that'll be another video. But anyway, I just want you guys to take a look at this and understand how much growth CO2 adds to your tank if you're gonna, if you're on the fence to add it. Again, this is only about 25 days of CO2 at one bubble every 1.5 seconds on a 30-gallon tank. And I would say the plant growth has tripled to quadrupled since I started the CO2. It's really, kind of shocking. But this is a very healthy, in balance aquarium. So anyway, with that, please like and subscribe. The channel's gaining momentum. We're at over 100 subscribers. Thank you, everybody. I'll do another video on this. Maybe I'll do a video when this weekend when I trim everything. I'll put up another video so you can kind of see the after of me trimming these plants. Usually the tank doesn't look that great after you trim the plants. It takes some time for them to kind of grow back in. But again, with the CO2, just cranking up the plant growth here, I imagine that a week after I trim it, the tank will kind of look more in balance and look really good again. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Please give me a like, and there'll be another video coming out with an update soon. Thanks all.